Introducing VisualBasic.net. Hello there. I welcome you all to this training session of VisualBasic.net. The goal of this training is to help you use the Visual Basic 2008 programming language, even if you've never programmed before. So then, take a deep breath, let it out slowly, and tell yourself you can do this. Right then, let's start this course with a small introduction. What is VB.net? Well, as the name says, VisualBasic.net. Visual refers to the method used to create what the user sees, that is, graphical user interface. Basic refers to beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. VisualBasic.net, or VB.net, is an evolution of Microsoft's Visual Basic, VB, implemented on the Microsoft.NET framework. Visual Basic Plus.NET framework equals VisualBasic.net. Visual Basic 2008 is Microsoft's latest version of the highly popular Visual Basic.NET programming language, and it's one of the many languages supported in Visual Studio 2008. Visual Basic 2008's strengths lie in its simplicity of use and the speed at which you can create Windows Form applications, WPF Windows applications, web applications, WPF browser applications, mobile device applications, and web services. Each new release of the Visual Basic.NET programming language brings about many new friends, features, and improvements, making it a great choice for programmers of all levels. So then let's explore what this version of Visual Basic offers us. Introducing Visual Studio.NET 2008. Visual Studio.NET is a complete set of development tools for building desktop applications, ASP web applications, XML web services, and mobile applications. Visual Basic.NET, Visual C++.NET, Visual C#.NET, and Visual J#.NET all use the same Integrated Development Environment, or IDE, which allows them to share tools and helps in the creating mixed language solutions. Visual Studio 2008 is the fourth major release of the product since .NET's initial introduction in 2002. The previous releases of Visual Studio.NET are Visual Studio 2002, 2003, 2005, and 2008 corresponds to a related release of the .NET Framework versions 1.0, 1.1, 2.0, and 3.5, respectively. The 2008 release of Visual Studio is major. It is packed with new usability features and comes in 4 delicious flavors, namely Visual Studio 2008 Express Edition. This entry-level product includes a simplified Visual Studio-like user interface, but it does impose a few restrictions on your program crafting ability. Microsoft's goal is to introduce as many people as possible to enjoy .NET programming, so it offers the Express Edition products at no cost. Visual Studio 2008 Standard Edition. Visual Studio's Standard Edition is just like the Express Edition with a few extras included, with SQL Server 2005 Express Edition included by default. Visual Studio 2008 Professional Edition. This is the minimum level required by programmers who will develop applications on a daily basis for money. It includes all the power features needed by a single programmer for both desktop and web-based development. Visual Studio Team System 2008. Now this version includes features needed by development teams that work on projects together, features such as project management tools and source code control. Here in this training, we're going to concentrate on Visual Studio 2008 Professional Edition. So then, let's start with its features. New features of Visual Studio 2008. Right then, let's have a look at the new features included in this latest version of Microsoft Visual Studio.NET 2008. Link support. Link is essentially the composition of many standard query operators that allow you to work with data in many perspective. Expression blend support. Expression Blend is Microsoft's user interface design tool for creating graphical interfaces for web and desktop applications that blend the features of these two types of applications. It's an embedded plugin to Visual Studio 2008. Windows Presentation Foundation, or WPF. WPF provides you an extensive graphic functionality you've never seen before. By this, a visual developer who is new to .NET, VB.NET, and C#.NET can easily develop the 2D and 3D graphic applications. VS 2008 Multi-Targeting Support. In Visual Studio 2008, you're able to create, run, and debug the .NET 2.0, .NET 3.0, and .NET 3.5 applications. AJAX support for ASP.NET. In Visual Studio 2008, you have a built-in AJAX control library, which contains plenty of rich AJAX controls like menu, tree view, web parts, and also these components support JSON, which is JavaScript Object Notation, JavaScript debugging support. Visual Studio 2008 makes it simpler with JavaScript debugging. You can set breakpoints and run the JavaScript codes step by step. Nested Master Page Support. In VS 2008, you can even edit the nested master pages. Link IntelliSense and JavaScript IntelliSense support for Silverlight applications. Visual Studio 2008 contains IntelliSense support for JavaScript, which makes it easy for developers while writing client-side validation, AJAX applications, and also when writing Silverlight applications. Organize imports or usings. Visual Studio contains Organize Imports features which removes unnecessary namespaces which you have imported. IntelliSense filtering. Earlier in VS 2005, when we were typing with IntelliSense box, all the items were being displayed. For example, if we type the letter K, then IntelliSense takes you to the item starting with K, but also all the other items will be presented in IntelliSense box. Now in VS 2008, if you press K, only the items that start with the letter K will be filtered and displayed. Visual Studio 2008 Split View. In VS 2008, we can configure the split view features vertically. This allows developers to use maximum screen on laptops and widescreen monitors. HTML JavaScript warnings, not as errors. Now VS 2008 separates this and shows JavaScript and HTML errors as warnings, but this is a configurable feature. Debugging.NET Framework Library Source Code. Now in VS 2008, you can debug the source code of .NET Framework Library methods. Inbuilt Silverlight Library. Earlier we used to install Silverlight SDK separately. Now, in VS 2008, it is inbuilt. With this, you can create, debug, and deploy the Silverlight applications. Inbuilt C++ SDK. Earlier, it was so difficult to download and configure the C++ SDK libraries and tools for developing Windows-based applications. Now, it's inbuilt with VS 2008 and configurable. Multilingual User Interface Architecture, MUI. MUI is an architecture that contains packages from Microsoft Windows and Microsoft Office libraries. This supports the user to change the text language display as he or she wishes. Now you can even view Visual Studio in other 9 local languages. Getting started with Visual Studio Start Page. Visual Studio provides an environment that's common to all languages, which is known as Integrated Development Environment, or IDE. The purpose of the IDE is to enable the developer to do as much as possible with visual tools before writing code. The Start Page. When you run Visual Studio 2008 for the first time, you'll be prompted to select the type of projects that you plan to build with Visual Studio, so that the environment can be optimized for that specific type of development. Now, I'm assuming that you have initially selected the Visual Basic Development settings, which will optimize your copy of Visual Studio for building Windows and web applications with Visual Basic 2008. After the initial configuration, you will see a window similar to this. On the Start page of Visual Studio, you will see the following panes. Recent projects. Here, you will see a list of the projects you opened most recently with Visual Studio, and you can select the one that you wish to open again. Each project's name is a hyperlink, and you can open it by clicking its name. At the bottom of the Recent Projects section, there are 2 hyperlinks for opening or creating another project. MSDN Visual Studio Headlines. This section is a browser window that displays an MSDN, the Microsoft Developer Network, which is the definitive resource for all Microsoft technologies and products. It displays this page when the computer is connected to the Internet. Getting started. This section contains links to basic programming tasks in the product's documentation. Visual Studio Headlines. This section contains links to announcements and other news of interest to VB developers. Starting a new project. Open the File menu and choose New Project, or simply click Create Project Solution in the Start page. In the New Project dialog box that pops up, you'll see a list of project types that you can create with Visual Studio. The most important ones are Windows Forms applications, which are typical Windows applications with one or more forms or windows. Class libraries, which are collections of classes. ASP.NET Web Applications provide a unified web development model that includes the services necessary for you to build enterprise-class web applications. WPF application enables rich control, design, and development of the visual aspects of Windows programs. Console applications, which are simple applications that interact with the user through a text window, the console. Windows Form Control Libraries, which are collections of custom controls. For our project, select the Windows Form Application template. Visual Studio suggests the project name as Windows Application 1. Change it to My Test Application, and then click the OK button to create the new project. Here comes the Visual Studio IDE displaying the form designer for a new project. The new project contains a form already, the Form 1 component in the Solution Explorer. The main window of the IDE is the form designer, and the gray surface on it is the window of your new application in design mode.